Ukrainian intelligence cells carry out attacks in Iraq and attribute them to resistance factions. So they're literally have now killed an Iranian civilian and bombed an Iranian cargo ship. So an act of war against Iran and an act of war against Iraq, all in the same 24-hour window. And they were caught both times. There's no other way to really spin what Ukraine is at this point. It is a terrorist entity. It's a very well-funded terrorist organization backed with the might of the U.S. empire and the EU. And if you think anything has changed with regard to the U.S. relationship in Ukraine, be it the intelligence agencies, be it the fiscal policy, or our general support in terms of providing them with an endless amount of weapons, you'd be dead wrong. I mean, all of our weapons are still going to Ukraine. The only difference now is instead of writing a blank check to Ukraine and then they use a portion of that money to buy back weapons and, lion's share of that money goes and is pocketed by Ukrainian oligarchs. Now we have something a little bit different. Donald Trump sells the weapons to European states. And of course, Donald Trump's, family and friends, they get to pocket all that money from these weapon sales. And then the European countries, they give that weaponry to Ukraine. So it's basically the same exact operation with just like one extra step in there now. The intelligence organizations of the United States, of the European states, they are still all operating and directing operations within Ukraine. Nothing's changed under this Trump administration. And things just possibly escalated in a very dangerous way. It seems to me as though some people in Ukraine, definitely Zelensky, are open and supportive of the idea of merging the U.S.-Israeli war against Iran and the axes of resistance with the Ukraine war against the NATO-Ukraine war against Russia. They want to merge these two wars and create what would probably be called in, any other historical period, something leading to a world war. I mean, this is the Sitzkrieg. This is the war before the war. All the pieces are falling into place. And you don't have to be a genius to understand what's going on here. Latin America, first of all, South America, Central, it's cooked. Like, it's all U.S. backed governments there anyways. So let's just forget about that for a second. But let's take a look at Africa. Africa, we know that the U.S., France, and Ukraine is very open about this, by the way. Ukraine is providing a lot of technical support to drones, drone operators, to these terrorist forces of Boko Haram and JNIM in Africa, in the Sahel region, in West Africa, okay? We look at Nigeria, Boko Haram, same thing. So we see the proxy war evolving there. The proxy war also, of course, stretches in Africa to Sudan, to Somalia, be it Israel, the United States on one side, Turkey, Russia on another side, Iran on one side. You go to Libya, you go to all these countries, and there are very clear lines being drawn. And what we're now seeing with Ukraine is that they have come out and said the obvious, something that we've said here for a very long time, that you cannot support, Iran, Palestine, and Ukraine and not have a completely heterodox, antithetical worldview. It doesn't make sense. You are supporting in Ukraine the beast of the imperialist empire. In Iran, you're supporting, in Palestine, you're supporting the anti-imperialist heart of West Asia. These are two different worlds. There are all these people, all these liberals, frankly speaking, at the start of the genocide in Gaza, and they were like, oh, I support Ukraine and I support Gaza. And that just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because, if you really think about it, the U.S. military posture with Israel is, and under Biden, I'd say was even more so with Ukraine, very similar to what is going on with not just Israel, but all of our Gulf allies in the Middle East. So this is just the same script, changed, tweaked a little bit, and placed on another part of the world. Same thing in Africa. Same thing in around China as well. I mean, Brian Berletic does a ton of coverage. I can't speak to the specifics of all these various conflicts that are, ongoing or brewing, or proxy forces that are being backed. But you look at Myanmar, you look at Thailand, you look at the Philippines. There's a lot of action there as well. So this is what our world is turning into, effectively world war. And we saw this week for the first time a direct Ukrainian attack, which killed Iranian civilians. Iran's foreign ministry has condemned Ukraine's attack against an Iranian cargo ship, which killed one sailor. The foreign ministry states that in accordance with international law and the UN Charter, Iran reserves the right to legitimate self-defense if such actions continue. Quote, Iran will never hesitate to defend itself in its national interests. Responsibility for the consequences of the adventurism committed by Ukrainian regime's leader will lie with that regime and its supporters and instigators. Now, things in Iran heated up a little bit because obviously Russia has a strategic security agreement with the Islamic Republic of Iran. They are allies. Iran has supported Russia a lot in their special military operation in Ukraine, supplying them with who knows what, when one can only imagine, right? But I will say that the Jaran 2 drones, the Geranium drones, they look a lot like the Shahed drones with some modifications. In fact, everyone knows that. But in Iran, some people began to vocalize their opposition, and it caused some really big worries in Ukraine. So let's see what Iranian lawmakers and officials were saying. Iran's parliament deputy speaker said Tehran's response to the Ukrainian provocation in the Caspian Sea will make Ukraine regret it. Iran's foreign ministry states Zelensky's bosses must control him. True. Iran has issued warnings to Ukraine in Ukrainian even. So this is from Ibrahim Azizi. He writes, any attack on Iran always comes at a price, and this remains true today as well. The U.S. and Israel are well aware of this. Ukraine may soon also come to understand that Iran does not leave its actions unanswered. The list of those who miscalculated continues to grow. Foreign Minister Arakchi said Zelensky has attacked an Iranian commercial vessel, killing a sailor, a blatant UN Charter violation done at Israel's behest to drag Europe into its war, and calls with the EU High Representative Kallas and Foreign Minister Lavrov made clear what the freeloader in Kiev did cannot go unanswered. So after all these strong words from Iranian officials, the Ukrainians got very worried. And I'm not even saying that they got worried because these threats are legitimate, like as if Iran is going to launch a ballistic missile at Ukraine, although that is possible. I think that this was a self-induced coma that many in Ukraine put themselves into. Because what benefits Zelensky and his regime now, the most, more than anything else at this point in time? It is creating an enduring, never-ending state of panic and fear for the Ukrainian people, and that if anything were to change, elections maybe, something changes in the country, then everything will fall apart and get immeasurably worse, and then they will really lose everything. So there was like this propaganda push. After they killed an Iranian, they somehow made themselves the victims in Ukraine. Does that sound familiar? They kill a civilian and then make themselves the victim. That kind of reminds me of something we've seen in the Middle East over the past few years. Anyways, they made themselves the victim, and they said, "Oh my God, Iran is moving missiles, and they're intercontinental ballistic missiles, and then they're going to bomb us in Ukraine." So these are Ukrainian Telegram channels, they're freaking out about this. According to updated information, the enemy is ready and planning to launch a massive missile strike on the territory of Ukraine, which should be expected within the next 24 hours. In addition, Iran plans to launch several, up to 3 medium-range ballistic missiles at the territory of Ukraine. It's kind of cute that the Ukrainians fancy themselves to be this important. You know, it's nice that despite the fact that no one in the mainstream media really seems to care or believe in Ukraine anymore, so much so to the point where they have to bring Laura Loomer out to do their propaganda because CNN and the BBC and the Times are just kind of, you know, at their wits' end with Zelensky and the Ukrainian regime. They have to bring out Laura Loomer to do sit-down conversations with Zelensky and then parade around all these military facilities in Ukraine. And Laura Loomer, by the way, I mean, I can't even definitively say whether or not she actually was in Ukraine because every single video and photo that Laura Loomer posted from Ukraine, she did AI Facetune. Facetune means you try to make your face look like somewhat you know, presentable. Like you try to, if you're, you know, if your face, if you look like a vampire ghoul, if you look like a, you know, a transgender surgery operation gone wrong, horribly wrong, like Laura Loomer does appear, then you would use Facetune is the app. That's what it's called. Use Facetune to use artificial intelligence to make your face appear more beautiful and normal looking than it actually is. So Laura Loomer, in every single video she posted, she like used this Facetune. So I don't even really know if that was her there or if this was all AI. Anyways, we have more stuff here. So the head of Ukraine's state service came out not too long after and said that there's no confirmed information about an expected Iranian missile attack against the territory of Ukraine. And to make matters even more odd, after all of this news occurred with regard to the killing of an Iranian civilian on just a cargo ship, what did we see happen? Well, Iraq's national security advisor Qasim al-Aboudi said that Ukrainian cells, like intelligence or paramilitary cells, presumably, are active throughout Ukraine, participating in false flag attacks. Ukrainian intelligence cells carry out attacks in Iraq and falsely attribute them to various factions. We arrested individuals and elements who confessed that Ukrainian cells carried out attacks on sovereign Iraqi facilities. Now, what's crazy about this is the Iraqi government right now is under a lot of pressure from the United States, Tom Barrack in particular, to disarm the pro-Iran Shia militias in Iraq, the Islamic resistance in Iraq, al-Nujaba, al-Shahada brigades, and Kataib Hezbollah, and some of the other ones, right? So what I'm saying is that they're not really in a position to give these groups the benefit of the doubt, because I'm sure they're probably looking for any reason to legally justify disarming these groups, even though that's not possible. You know, and if they do try, I think it's going to lead to civil war. But this is so out in the open and absurd and such a flagrant violation of even Iraq's sovereignty that they're like, no, there's Ukrainian terrorists in our country doing false flag attacks, trying to sow discord and division. After Iran, Ukraine now attacked Iraq as well, Iraqi National Security Advisor claims. Ukrainian intelligence cells carry out attacks in Iraq and attribute them to resistance factions. So they're literally have now killed an Iranian civilian and bombed an Iranian cargo ship. So an act of war against Iran and an act of war against Iraq, all in the same 24-hour window. And they were caught both times. Middle East Spectator posted this: a gentle reminder to Mr. Zelensky, all of Ukraine is within reach of Iran's ballistic missiles, including super heavy Khorramshahr 4 missiles, although it would be a waste of good missiles. The guy who runs Middle East Spectator said that after he posted this, he got more death threats from Ukrainians in a 24-hour period than he's gotten from all Israelis since the start of the genocide in Gaza, which is pretty incredible. It's pretty incredible. So it seems as though the Ukrainians heard the news and understood that these sorts of actions would not be taken lightly by the Iranians nor the Iraqis. So Andriy Sybiha, who is Ukraine's foreign minister, he called the foreign minister of Iran today, if you can believe it, Mr. Abbas Araghchi. This was reported just a few hours ago. And he got on his hands and knees and he begged Mr. Araghchi to communicate to the leadership in Iran that, well, Ukraine really didn't mean to kill an Iranian civilian, and we're really sorry for bombing one of your cargo ships, and please don't take any reciprocal action towards Ukraine. They're begging. They're begging. Well, I mean, they're losing their most precious territory right now in Donetsk People's Republic, the Donetsk region of Russia. They're losing that. The three most heavily fortified cities anywhere on the front line in Ukraine are Konstantinovka, Kramatorsk, and Slavyansk. They just lost Konstantinovka. And Kharkov, the Russians are moving in as well. And it won't be long before Slavyansk and Kramatorsk are under assault as well from the Russians. So I can imagine why they would be a little bit worried about a new threat from Iran. But hey, look, you guys started this. What else is new? And why? Why are they begging? Why are they freaking out? Why are they saying all this stuff now? Saying like, oh, we don't want war with Iran. Well, some people in Ukraine definitely do want war with Iran, seemingly. I mean, Zelensky said this not too long ago. He was asked, are you worried about Iran potentially attacking Ukraine? They've threatened because of what happened with their vessel. Or is that not a concern? Excuse me. So Zelensky's asked this yesterday. Are you worried about Iran potentially attacking Ukraine? They threatened because of what happened with their vessel. Or is that not a concern? Zelensky said, Iran has already attacked us by simply supplying weapons to Russia. That's got to be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. So they've attacked. That's not the same thing. Bombing a civilian and a civilian cargo ship is not the same thing as Ukraine saying like, oh, we're going to send some drones to Israel, or we're going to allow. Wait. During the Ramadan war, Ukraine literally sent drone specialists and air defense specialists to the United Arab Emirates to fight against Iran. So, like, what are we talking about here? Oh, and also, they got blown up while they were there. They got killed, these Ukrainian drone specialists, but they sent them there on the explicit mission of helping the UAE and Dubai protect themselves and fight against Iran. So, like, if we're going to talk about who started what, and I mean, that was a flagrant attack against Iran, according to Zelensky's logic here. We have to be cautious. We have to do everything to open a new front, and we have to do everything not to open a new front in any way. But we have to be honest. Iranians and North Koreans already attacked us. Well, the North Koreans, that is true. I hope that they will not increase these attacks, but we have to be ready for everything. We can't trust these people because at the very beginning, without any escalation from our side, Iranians gave weapons. Well, they have a strategic partnership, military partnership with Russia, and I mean, you did just bomb one of their civilians and their civilian cargo ship, so it's just incredible. Another country, another friend of the U.S., terrorist state, committing terrorism all across the world, and somehow always finding the time to make themselves the victim. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or GiveSendGo. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.